If he feels that he did what he needed to do and he doesn't have to prove anything more to anybody, he'll move on to the next potential number one contender. But in my opinion, I want to see it again.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to episode number Trace. That's numero Trace. That's 3 for you people who don't speak Spanish. That's for you, Jeff. Hey, I'm learning something. Guys, thank you so much. You're watching Loudmouth Fisticuffs wherever you are. We appreciate it so much. We appreciate your feedback from last week and the weeks before show. So, we're happy to be here. We got a huge show today. We're going to talk about the whole Dominic Reyes and John Jones fiasco.
You got it right. You got it right. We started off the week on the right this time.
Yes,
you got it right. You got it right. You got the whiskey off the brain, man. That's smart for you. There is hope for you, Josh. There is.
Well, I appreciate that, Jeff. Coming from you, that means something, I guess.
I changed my mind already. You're talking.
I changed my mind already. All right. Guys, anyways, we appreciate it so much wherever you're joining us from. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like this. It means so much to us. Jeff, my man, what's going on with you?
Everything is going on with me. Are you kidding? There's nothing that's not going on with me. You know what's coming up this week. You know that what we experienced last week, UFC 247. We got Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships 10. We finally hit double digits in Fort Lauderdale in just a few days. That's going to be awesome. I had a great time over at Who's Number One, which was an amazing grappling competition over in Costa Mesa. And it was the first time out, once again, like I said before, for Flow Grappling, where they were not only promoting, but they were producing it on top of that. So, that definitely was the night of the upsets. I'm going to get into that a little later. But yeah, man, it was a good week, and this week is going to be even better.
Well, I guess let's touch on the hot topic of the week. I guess maybe hot topic for the next month or 2
weeks.
Yeah, maybe next couple weeks, right? With John Jones and Dominic Reyes, the finish that it's split right down the middle of people which side they are on.
Too bad the judge's decision wasn't split right down the middle as it should have been. One thing I can definitely say, the judge that had 49-46 for that fight shouldn't probably be allowed to judge a fight again. Now, I'm not the kind to really put a judge under the bus because I'm out there ringside or cage side, and I see these judges working hard. So I know what a difficult position that is and how much scrutiny that they're under. I mean, the referees and the judges, seldom a day comes by that they're not raked across the coals for either doing something right or doing something wrong. But you never know when somebody's doing something right or wrong because everything is perception for people. Most people, there are so many people who are saying, oh, he was robbed, he was robbed, he was robbed, he was robbed. Maybe just a tad bit, but it was really close. But a close fight should be a close fight. And this close fight did not receive a split decision as it should have. Because Dominic Reyes was a problem for John Jones, plain and simple. He said he was going to be a problem, and he delivered. But he did not deliver a victory. Now, should it have been a split decision? I think it could have gone either way, but I think what Dominic Reyes did is he stepped foot, got in the face of right now one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world and said, guess what? I am a problem. Guess what? Under the circumstances, I can beat you. And I absolutely believe he can. His striking was very impressive for somebody coming out against somebody that has the pedigree of John Jones. So it was impressive. So I definitely believe that he could beat him. Didn't happen this time around, but I'm going to see John Jones. I'm going to be interested, how interested he is in pursuing a rematch. I think he might be a little reluctant to do that. And I know Dominic Reyes would love to tango one more time with Bones.
I'm going to flip the script just a little bit on that, Jeff. A lot of that, you made some fair points. I think that, the last 2 rounds especially, and I think the third round is the one that really is debatable with everybody, is the third round. Dominic, I think he took the first 2 rounds hands down. He came out aggressive. He landed his shots. It was very competitive the first 2 rounds. John Jones, I think, really showed his grit, and not only is he super talented, and I'll take a line from Mr. Chael P. Sonnen, He talks about how, a lot of champions are either you got guys who are super tough and you got the guys who are super talented. Very rarely do you have a guy that is both, that is super tough and super talented. And John Jones is one of those rare breeds. Whatever you want to think about him, I hate people mixing and bleeding in like his personal life. I'm not talking about that shit. I'm talking strictly from, a professional athlete, point of view. Don't let the other shit bleed in. I get whatever you may think about him or whatever, right? He is that talented and he is that tough. Him taking what he took in the first couple rounds and turning in what I thought was a victory. I thought he did enough. It was a competitive fight. I thought he did enough to take home the W, and I thought, I'm in the side too, and I heard people disagree with this, but I don't care. It's the way I feel. I don't think he did enough. I feel like in order to win, to take a belt from somebody, you've got to do a little bit more than what Dominic did. I'm not crapping on him, but I just not at all, because it was, like I said, it was extremely tough fight for both guys. I would love to see the rematch, but I don't think he quite did enough to take the belt off of Jones. I think Jones, the right person won. It was the right call. I'm good with that call. And yeah, sure, I'd love to see it again.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and say something that's definitely oversaid in the fight game. I will give credit where credit is due. John dug in those championship rounds. He dug deep. He dug deep. Plus, he also made history that day. He actually made history that day by becoming the first person to ever have 14 straight championship victories.
Yep.
He passed up George St. Pierre, and that's the most now in UFC history. So, yeah, I mean, I give him credit on that. I think that, again, Reyes was a problem, and I still think I don't think John is going to be, throwing his hat in for an immediate rematch. I really don't. Maybe John is going to move on to something else, because some fighters aren't of the mind of giving immediate rematches unless they feel that they really have something to prove, that something wasn't resolved in that fight. And I think in that mindset, if he feels that he did what he needed to do and he doesn't have to prove anything more to anybody, he'll move on to the next potential number one contender. But in my opinion, I want to see it again. I want to see that again. I want to see them throw down again. And I think that Dominic, if he gets that immediate rematch, you're going to see someone that you hadn't seen in the first fight. I mean, even though it was a fantastic fight, you're going to see more in the rematch, because Dominic will know that if he gets that rematch, that could be conceivably the last time that he challenges for that championship. And if you know that you're going to be challenging that for potentially the last time, you're going to come out there a completely different fighter, and you're going to say, the only way that I'm leaving is with him draped over one shoulder and a championship over the other.
No doubt about that. If there's a rematch, and like you pointed out, John's historically not quick to give rematches. So
no, he's not.
He's not. So will we see it down the road? Maybe. I think it's a good possibility. Will we see it in 2020? I doubt it.
I'm going to tell you something. Everybody says it's up to UFC executives. No, I think it's really more up to the fans. I think if the fans push it hard enough and they want it enough, it's talked about all over social media. It's talked about on TV. It's talked about by anyone that could really kind of be a pushing voice for a rematch. The more that people want it, the more they'll see dollar signs saying, hey, and I definitely believe that this rematch would have dollar signs, because it got people so interested before. And then at the conclusion of the fight, there are just so many people where there are question marks looming overhead. They just want to get it done. They want to see a clear resolution, because I'm going to be honest. I mean, the only time anybody really likes a fight going to decision is if it was close.
Yeah, no doubt. I'd like to throw this out there too. I was thinking about this. The reason why I think maybe like the fight with Gus and maybe this fight, right? They're similar in the fact that, John Jones there's this mythical aura around John Jones, like there was with Silver, like there was with GSP, right? And I think it almost does him a disservice in the sense of anytime somebody lands a couple shots on him, all of a sudden it's like it kind of breaks that myth a little bit. And it's I think of Rocky IV and he's not a machine. He's not a machine.
Well,
right?
no, he looks human.
He looks human, right? And
I think this is actually the second consecutive fight that he's had to where, oh my God, it's just like you said. It's just like in the corner in Rocky IV. You cut him. You hurt him. You see, he's not a machine. He's a man.
That's right. But I think it almost works against him, man. I think that in the eyes of a lot of people, they see a young, powerful guy in Dominic come up, and he's come up through the ranks.
Well, he became a star in defeat.
Right. So, but a lot of people were kind of getting behind him leading up to this, and they thought, this is the guy that's going to take him off the perch. This is a guy that's going to, take the belt away from John Jones and send him packing the heavyweight, maybe whatever.
Well, and Jones lately has really enjoyed playing the heel.
Oh yeah, he's good at it.
He's good. I mean, honestly, well, you and I both know, I mean, just to take something out of a pro wrestling quote, that being a heel is always more fun because the heels have more fun. The faces always have way too much responsibility on their shoulders. The heels don't give a shit about responsibility. All they want to do is, split your eyes with a chair.
And what's great about John, and respects to the heel role, he's a natural heel. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not even the kind of heel like a Colby Covington heel. Like, he doesn't have to talk a whole lot of shit. He can just it's in his body language. It's just he can just sit there and maybe say like one line, and the crowd is boo.
Well, you have to look at him. You have to look at him what he physically brings to the table. He's lean. He's tall. He's 6'4", and taller people always have kind of that cocky sense, because they're looking above the trees.
Sure.
As opposed to everyone else. So there's always that sense of, that, like I said, there's that cocky sense, the cock of the walk sense that that taller people do naturally have. I mean, if you want to look at boxing, look at Tyson Fury, look at Deontay Wilder, cocky as they fucking get, but one's 6'7" and the other's 6'9". So
that's a Shane Doug. Was that a Shane Douglas reference? Shane Douglas used to say that a lot. Cock of the walk.
I don't know if it was directly for Shane Douglas, but if it was, I definitely said it better.
Shout out to Shane Douglas, one of my favorites growing up, by the way. Shout out.
Oh yeah, I loved him when he was the professor in WWF. No, he probably kicked my ass if I said that. That was like probably one of his worst gimmicks.
But man, I tell you, I just I guess really to move on to the next thing though, but I think it happens again. I don't think it happens soon. I think it did enough, but I can see the point of view of people saying it was that competitive. They could see Dominic winning. The robbery thing, yeah, I don't know about that. It was close. Maybe if Dominic would have won, I don't think I would have been all that mad about it. I wouldn't have been that upset because it was so damn close. But yeah, now with just to touch back onto a point, cycle back to what you were saying, the 49-46, the judge that gave that, yeah, there's no way. There's no way.
There is no way that you're talking about a 3-point difference on a round. There's just no fucking. I mean, there's just no way. There's just no way. I understand the 3-point must system, but that's just ridiculous because it just seems like to turn out that kind of score on a fight that close, it just. I think that the judge probably missed a lot, if not all, of the key points of that fight to turn out a dominating score like that. I didn't see it. I did not see it. I know that Jones dug in and showed us who he was in those championship rounds. But you got to give the first two 100% to Dominic. Dominic dominated those first two rounds. He came out and threw those hands and showed, John, I've got something to play with. And that's because of that, somebody still turns out a 49-46. And like I said, I understand how difficult that position is. But still, pay attention to the fight because that score that you turned out showed that you didn't pay attention to the fight. I mean, it'd be the same situation if I was standing in the ring or in the cage or whatever, and I end up, saying some messed up stuff, or if I mispronunciate someone's name, if I say that this person is from somewhere and they're not from there, or you could even go ahead and go one further. And if I fuck up a decision, which I haven't done in well over a decade, thank God, I would be held accountable for that. So I think that judges need to be held accountable for bad scores. But the problem is that they've got the protection of the athletic commissions. And anytime anybody wants to go after a judge or a referee for whatever reason during a fight, the bureaucracy steps in and protects, and it's just something that gets dragged out long and long and long, and inquiries and questions, Q&A sessions, and nothing really comes from it. Eventually people just, like, oh, that was so long ago, I'm bored with it now. And a lot of athletic commissions do that. Now, I'm not saying anything negative about the athletic commissions, but I still believe that people need to be held accountable for their actions. And I believe that that is one action that was just incorrect.
Well, speaking of all that, what do you think about the whole open judging, open during rounds so the fighters can see that? They're talking about.
Oh, you mean real time? You mean the real time judging?
Right. The
real time judging. I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a real bad idea because it's just one of those facets of the show that doesn't need to be made public at that moment. And I think it takes something away from the fight. I think it takes away the mystique, because I love how everything is set up to where the promoters have, not the promoters, excuse me, the commentators have their scorecards for what they have it. And I love the comparison of the commentator scorecards to the actual scorecards, because it kind of leaves that, like I said, that sense of mystique about the fight until it finally happens. But making it basically public record throughout the fight, it gives the fight fans something additional to pay attention to when they should be paying attention to the fight, not necessarily the scorecards. So I'm not a fan of it. I personally am not a fan with it. And it also kind of takes something away from my job, because not everybody is as, oh, what happened if something is made public knowledge. Sure,
because like at the end of the fight, there's that moment of suspense. And your winner by split decision.
Hey, we all know what I do. We all know what I do.
You know what?
That was verbal diarrhea at its best.
That's one moment where I will agree with you 1,000%, and I apologize to the listeners out there. That is not my job.
No, it's not. No, and I don't ever want to hear that again. Seriously, man, I think my ears are bleeding. Let me check real quick. Nope, I'm good.
I'm gonna call and I'll leave you a voicemail announcing somebody out to the ring or something, just for you to hear, just so you can.
Okay, and I will make sure that is public record. And boy, am I going to make fun of it.
But you know what I like, and that's an interesting take on the open scoring like that. Dominic Cruz was talking about it, and his suggestion was, instead of like an open scoring platform, was to bring in, instead of, because all the different state commissions, they're all completely separated. Like the only thing that really maybe that they have in common is that they will adopt another state's suspension on a fighter or something like that. Like other than that, like some of the rule sets are similar, but each state is really its own thing, right? It's its own governing body. There is
most of them fall under the unified MMA rules.
Right. Most of them fall under the unified MMA rules, but as far as the commissions themselves, like they are their own governing body. Like there isn't like a umbrella over them, right? So what his
other than the governor, other than the governor of that state, yeah,
sure. His suggestion was to bring, somehow maybe get all these different states or wherever they fight at, get them kind of at least a open dialogue. Then with the UFC and maybe like with, maybe like your top promotions, like your Bellator, your, maybe one, whoever, maybe even like throw boxing people in there. I don't know. Have something come in there, and that way a lot of these people can get on the same page. Because I think the problem.
Open dialogue, to what extent do you mean?
In terms of what to look for. Like, for instance, who was it? And forgive me, it's on the tip of my tongue. The guy had James Krause, the James guy, and Trevor Giles.
Yeah.
James Krause and Trevor Giles. James Krause had Trevor's back like the whole first round.
Mm-hmm.
He had his back the whole first round. One of the judges gave that round to Trevor Giles, which tells me he had no idea what he was looking at. Like, he had no idea. He had no idea that the aggressor was James Krause in that round. He had no clue what he was looking at.
Okay.
So what Dominic Cruz was talking about was just kind of maybe have some type of presentation. I don't know, something that all these different states can look at and be like, okay, this is what you're looking for, right? If somebody is in this position, that's a plus for this person. If somebody's in this position, that's a negative for that person, right? Instead, I think people went to wrestling when someone just gets the way John Jones did to Cruz, him just simply taking him down, and I'm sorry, not Cruz, Reyes. When he took Reyes down and Reyes just popped right back up, he didn't do anything. Like, he took him down, but as far as doing any damage, nothing. Slowing him down.
Well, he took him down, but he didn't hold him.
Yeah, he didn't hold him at all, and there was no offense or whatsoever. Like, I feel like there has to be something, like, if you could take the person down and hold them there for, I don't know, 3 seconds, then okay, it counts as something. Like, I feel like just because what it encourages is what we see now. It encourages people simply to look for the takedown just so they can get on top of the scorecard. And I don't think that a takedown should be an instant win on a scorecard. And to some judges' eyes, it is.
Well, because it could eventually lead to a lay and pray. And a lay and pray in that situation can easily pick someone up a fight, but nobody wants to see that because, it's a fight. It's not a wrestling match.
But doesn't, like, giving the judges giving the person that round, that, let's just say, like, they just took them down, boom, end of the round. They're gonna probably win that round, I say, in most fights, just for simply getting that takedown. That's what I think it encourages. That it encourages that type of style.
Depends on the round. Depends on how busy they were in the round. I mean, yes, that is a contributing factor. But what you're saying, I mean, could be said if that's the only enduring thing that happened during that round, then that's the least amount of your situation. I mean, it's really going to depend on the round and who was busy and who was aggressive. I mean, what happened after that takedown? What happened before that takedown? How were they on their strikes? How are they on? I mean, there's so many different factors to just say that the takedown is going to be the determining factor on who wins the fight. I mean, if it's a boring fight, then yeah.
Let me give you a scenario, Jeff. And this is just.
I understand the concept of spitballing.
So, what if, let's just say I'm let's say fighter A and fighter B. Fighter A has fighter B in a clinch against the cage. Nothing too crazy. Maybe gets a couple strikes in, right? Maybe a couple elbows. Guy's not rocked or anything. He's absorbed a couple shots. He's okay for the most part. Maybe he's taken a couple shots. Maybe I don't know, knee to the gut, something, right? Mm-hmm. Guy gets out of it. Fighter B goes to take down fighter A. Now, just based on those two scenarios, who won that round?
Well, I mean,
not necessarily. Well, like, who do you, in terms of judging, normal judging, who do you think is probably going to win that round if those were the only two things that happened in that fight?
Well, I mean, but it's still kind of vague because how aggressive was the clinch?
I mean, he landed a couple shots. Let's just say he held him in the clinch for a minute.
I mean, the takedown is going to be considerable. I'm not going to lie, but it's really depends on how busy you were in the clinch, how many effective strikes you got, and also your recovery from that takedown.
And the takedown, let's just say they had equal time, as in 1 minute of clinch time with a couple shots. 1 minute of the guy taking him down, controlling the ground.
Well, I mean, the takedown would probably end up, swaying the judges for that.
Right. That's my point. I think it contributes to that type of style. It's a problem because I love a good ground game. We talked about this the last show. I think I love a good ground game. What I don't like is people taking someone down for the sake of scoring and winning the round, because they know most judges, I don't want to say most, but there are some judges that don't really understand, the game, and they see a takedown, like, oh, that guy's dominating.
I'm gonna tell you what, they fucking better at that level. They fucking better at that level.
You would think.
If you're at that level, I mean, but it happens in every sport. There's always a rogue judge in every sport. You want to go ahead and talk about boxing? When I think of judges, fucked up judges, one name comes to mind: Adelaide Byrd. She has messed up. She has messed up so many scorecards, and I know Adelaide, and she is a sweetheart. I love her. I've had an opportunity to work with her many times when I've been in Vegas, and I have no problem with her. But she has been at the end of some really messed up calls, and she had been protected by the Nevada State Athletic Commission up until one point. And then they kind of suggested maybe, it's not really looking too good for you right now, because, you've got a string of bad calls. And, of course, she was under investigation. There was an inquiry. There was a formal inquiry, that was done about her. So there's always going to be somebody out there that is going to be at the end of just relentless scrutiny. And it happens. I mean, whether you're a judge, whether you're a referee. I mean, look at people like John McCarthy and Mario Yamasaki. How many times have they been at the end of some really messed up calls as a referee in that position? I mean, I would give more slack to the referees than I would for the judges, because the referees are in there with the primary purpose to make sure that the fighters are as safe as they can make it.
Correct.
As safe as they can make it. The judges only have one thing to do. The judges only have one thing to do, and that is to pay attention and be vigilant. If they're at that level and they're distracted, they don't need to be there. There'd be hundreds, if not thousands, of people who would love to be in that position. And a lot of these guys, like I said, a lot of these guys are my friends. I have quite a few of the UFC judges who I know and who I've had the pleasure of working with. So these guys are at the top of their game. I watch them constantly. I know that they're paying attention, but every now and then there's going to be that stray dog that just doesn't really know what they're doing. And hopefully somebody will get to the bottom of that sooner rather than later, because the last thing that the fighter wants is to have, all fighters say this, never leave your fight to the judges. Never leave it up to the judges. Get in there and get it done. But sometimes that doesn't happen. All right, man. Well, I think that we've talked about, this enough. So let's go ahead and let's move on to the co-main event. And let's talk about my girl, Valentina Shevchenko, and how amazing she was again. I told you, man. This was going to be a tough fight. This was going to be a tough fight for her, not for Shevchenko. I mean, it just wasn't. It wasn't a tough fight. I'm amazed that it actually went to the third round.
Well, exactly what I think we agreed on this one 100% when we talked about this the other day.
Not saying anything against Chookagian.
It's not a knock on Chookagian, but it's exactly I know what I thought, right? Like
I think she was outclassed. I just think that Shevchenko is that different kind of athlete. I mean, did you see how ripped she was at the weigh-ins?
She's a savage, and Chookagian is a defensive fighter, and it went exactly like I thought. I take that back. I will give her credit. I actually thought it was going to be a little quicker than that. I will be honest. I thought it was going to be. I thought maybe she was going to take her head off in the first round. I'll be completely honest. So I mean, I will give her. I'll give her that credit. She made it to the third round, and her movement was okay. Like Chookagian's movement was good, because that's what's kind of got her to this point. Is she moves kind of awkward. Well,
It was like a speed bag versus a punching bag.
Well, yeah.
It was, and I'm telling you, man, there's no one in the division right now that's capable of challenging Shevchenko. Not right now.
Well, the only one she's had trouble with was Nunes.
Well, that's the only thing that could happen, is if she decides to move back up to weight and have a third fight with Nunes.
I don't think she needs to.
No, no, and she doesn't. She wants to have a legacy of where she's at right now, and that makes sense because, she's dominating the division. She's anyone who is a doubter of her, which if you're a doubter of Valentina Shevchenko, you really need to go see an optometrist because she is absolutely killing it, and she is owning this division, and that's hard to do. In any sport, I don't care how good you are. I don't care what kind of an athlete and what kind of pedigree you think that you have. Owning a division at the top level it's not impossible, but it's improbable. And to see that happen from a single athlete like Shevchenko is just incredible. I love her. And you saw the reception that she got at the weigh-ins and at the fight. The people in Houston, they love her. They love her because she's a no-nonsense fighter. She gets in there and she just I swear to God, she's like the female Ivan Drago. I must break you.
She's great, man. I can't say this enough, and it sounds like a broken record, but she is a savage. She is a savage. I don't know what else to call her. She's nasty, right? But then, she's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, right?
She's incredibly humble. She's incredibly
humble. The dichotomy of that, and I know you can attest to that. It's almost like the more savage the fighter, the nicer they are. It's really weird.
But there's a problem with it, though. You said that there's a dynamic there, but basically staying at flyweight and dominating her doesn't really help her make her the biggest star either.
I think it could be debatable. I think it just depends on if UFC.
It's not debatable if she doesn't have any competition. That gets old after a while.
Well, look at Silva. Look at John Jones.
But it eventually happened. Somebody
might eventually come up.
Although that, I'm going to say it again, John Jones did it to himself, and that's why he had a huge hiccup in his professional career. Silva was just the natural order of progression in the sport. What happened to Silva was bound to happen. That you could look at anybody throughout the years, and it's just eventually going to happen. But the fighters that are currently on there, that are the pound for pounds, they haven't gone through as much as the UFC fighters of before them. John Jones is one of the very few because, like I said, he made UFC history with his 14th straight championship win. So he ended up doing something that no one else had ever done before at that time. But I think if we're going to go ahead and compare, I think Antonio Silva, I think that he fought. I'm thinking, did I say Antonio Silva?
You sure did. And I was going to correct you, but I was trying to be nice.
You know what I meant. You know something? Oh my goodness. I actually said, no disrespect to Bigfoot. He did a great friggin' job with us over at Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, but you know who I'm talking about. I feel that generation fought tougher fighters. They fought tougher fighters at that time. They fought the best of that generation in their prime. And I just believe that they were tougher than they are today.
I will agree and disagree with you on that. I will say this. I think in terms of grit, that generation is the tougher generation. In terms of athleticism and talent, I'm going to disagree with you. Because
no. That wasn't what I was saying, though. I never said anything about the overall athleticism. The younger generations and the newer generations will always be more athletic than the one before them. 100%. The same could be said from the WWE.
Sure.
If you look at the superstars of yesteryear compared to them now, they're a million times more athletically gifted, than the previous generation, which is going to happen either way. No, we're talking about tough. We're talking about overall toughness and grit. I believe that the last generations of fighters before this generation fought tougher fights, and I believe that they pushed it a little bit further than they do today. Every now and then we will get a new generation fighter that will come out and basically literally fight until he dies. He's saying the only way you're going to knock me out is to kill me, basically. And it happens every now and then. But I thought it was more prevalent of the previous generation. I did.
Yeah, I agree with that. Is you don't see it as much, and maybe that's, I don't know, man. Maybe you could attest that to kind of attest that across the board, right? That mentality. I think it's just different across the board, and it's just a generational thing.
Well, of course it's a generational thing because you know the millennials now.
Yeah.
There's a sense of self-entitlement. Forget the fact that you earned it. Back then you earned it. Now they feel that they deserve it. Let me tell you something. I don't care how high you up. I don't care how high you are on the totem pole in what you do. I'm going to tell you this. You don't deserve jack shit. You don't deserve a goddamn thing. And I will never say myself, I'm 42 years old, and I will never say that I deserve anything. The only thing that I will say that I deserve in any way is maybe I deserve an opportunity to try, or maybe I've earned an opportunity to try. But I hate saying that word deserve. It's like I'm going to go back and forth on you, but that's how Loudmouth Fisticuffs works, man. I mean, we are never on the same mental train track. We go off all the time. It's like when you hear, like when somebody wins a big title, and of course, one of the first chants that people do, you deserve it, you deserve it. And I'm like, I hate that. I hate that. He earned it. If anything, in his mind, he's saying he earned it. And that's an old school mentality. Will always think that they earn it rather than deserve it, because like I said, you don't deserve anything. Your hard work makes you earn it. Your hard work gets you the opportunity to earn it. As far as deserve, no, that's a millennial word, and I can't stand it. I keep it out of my vocabulary. I try to.
Well said, sir. Well said. Well said.
Back on the train tracks.
Back on the train tracks. So I guess real quick, I kind of want to touch base real quick on Latifi and Lewis. Latifi was making his heavyweight debut, and Derek Lewis showcased some stuff that we hadn't seen him do before. Some of the high kicks and things like that.
I love those high kicks.
I love those. Right?
He looked comfortable with those high kicks.
It was kind of an awkward fight, because Latifi was kind of, I think the size of Derek Lewis, maybe it seemed like it kind of maybe not so much overwhelmed him, but it definitely puzzled him. It
did overwhelm him. He was Derek Lewis is 6'3".
Yeah.
And Latifi's what, 5'8"?
So yeah.
I mean, didn't we say that he was the shortest heavyweight in the history of the UFC? No, I don't think that he's going to do well in the heavyweight division at that. I just think he's giving up way too much. And I think when you're giving up that much, regardless of what kind of skill set that you had, it's going to be an uphill battle for you. I mean, I'm sorry. That's just, that's not me talking. That's biology. That's physics. I just think that he has too much of an uphill battle in heavyweight, and I think that he should go back to light heavyweight. I mean, I think he's still too wide for middleweight. He's too wide for middleweight, but that's the problem. He has a height game, unfortunately, working against him. So that's why I think he'd be better at light heavyweight. Heavyweight, it looked like a game with a few pieces of the puzzle of the puzzle missing. That's what it looked like to me.
That's a good. I like that. That's a good way to look at that. BKFC 10 is just in a few days, right? And we've been chomping at the bit for weeks now, and as the fights have been announced and started to come out, it's really shaped up to be a hell of a card. And I know I say that every time, but I cannot help it, right? Ever since Bare Knuckles come on the scene, and no, we talked about this last week. I'm not paid. Dave's still waiting on the phone call. I love it. I love the sport. I love the pace of it. I love the, I know we talked about the brutality of it, and it's just different. It's different from MMA. It's different from regular boxing. I love it. I cannot wait.
Well, it's
Hector Lombard.
It is its own. It is its own sport.
It's its own thing. Yeah, it's its own thing.
It's not a comparable sport. I mean, you think that you would think that because it's a combat sport, but I don't think it's a comparable sport. I really don't, because it has its own mindset. It has its own pace.
Yeah.
And this particular card, I mean, I know it's easy to sound like a broken record on Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship because the cards are fantastic.
Yeah.
But what is really exciting about this is that we only have so many debuters. We only have so many debuters. We have fighters that have already cut their teeth with us and getting ready to get back into it. So that means that the roster is starting to grow. And we're starting to see how bare knucklers fare up as they approach new challenges. I think that you are going to see brutality personified with Hector Lombard. A lot of people are saying, man, you're giving Hector Lombard an opportunity at bare knuckle. This guy is, oh my God. This guy is like, he's like a killer whale tail. He's nothing but muscle. Nothing but muscle. I mean, and it's amazing how fast this guy has got to have some awesome genes, because it's amazing how fast he gets in shape and how fast he puts on muscle.
We talked to him at BKFC 8 down the last one in Tampa, and we were fortunate enough to get him for a few minutes. He sat down with us for our post-fight show after the card, and I tell you what, man, he's just like, you see certain people, and again, I'll use the word I love, savage. You see certain people, and you get a sense from them, and yeah, like
he's a savage, all right.
You want to talk about thick, like you said, he's like one ball of muscle.
I know.
It's just one ball of, and we were messing with him, not messing with him because I wouldn't mess with him, but like we were just asking a bunch of different questions, and Wanderlei Silva was also there that night too. So
he certainly was,
and he was talking about squaring up with Wanderlei right then and there. He said because he looked at me funny. So he was ready. Hector Lombard was ready to square up right then and there.
You also have to remember this guy was a former Olympic judoka.
Yes.
On top of that, I mean, this guy's an Olympian. I mean, he was the inaugural Bellator middleweight champion. I mean, he's done so much. He's only lost. I mean, his record is fantastic. 47 fights, and he's only lost 10 times. That's a great
athlete. He's a legitimate athlete.
Oh, look at this guy cleaned up in judo. Absolutely cleaned up in judo. I mean, this guy was made. I think he's going to end up being made for this. I really do. I really think that he is just going to end up tearing it up. I really do. I mean, has his time in MMA possibly come to an end? It's going to be up to him. It's going to be up to him whether or not he wants to do that. I mean, he's 42. He just turned 42 a couple weeks ago, so he's my age. So at 42, you have to determine whether or not you want to, get back in there with a 21-year-old, a 23-year-old, the younger generation. But he has an opportunity to be a legitimate star. I mean, he was a star in his own right in MMA, and now he's got a chance to be a star in bare knuckle, because I got to tell you, this is probably one of the most anticipated bare knuckle debuters since we've been around. When I remember when I first heard about it, the rumors behind it, I was like, oh my God. Oh, I think he would absolutely have a field day in the squared circle if he gets here. And sure enough, here he is. Now, am I thrilled? I'm going to tell you, I was excited about him and Joe Riggs. I was really excited because two former Bellator world champions, kind of squaring it up. But I still think Dave Mundell is a great substitute for that, because Dave really showed us something on his debut. And he's a guy who's taken to bare knuckle very quickly. And I think it's going to be a good fight. Is it mismatched? I don't think it's mismatched because it's going to be interesting to see how Hector Lombard gravitates toward bare knuckle and if he has what it takes to push that pace. I mean, he was a very ferocious MMA fighter, and even more so in judo. But will he have it to take it over in bare knuckle? I don't know, but I think we're going to see a show when the main event comes around this Saturday. Oof.
Well, and you touched on it. David Mundell, he's 2-0 in BKFC. He's 2-0 in bare knuckle.
That's right.
He beat Drew Lipton, BKFC 6 in the first round. He finished Ronnie Forney at BKFC 8 in the second round. Sure did. Which, by the way, guys, you can check out. Go to CombatInsiders.com, the Knucklepedia section.
That is so cool that you set that up. That is so cool that there is an avenue for people to check out the up-and-coming bare knuckles. And I also see that you even listed the weight classes properly. The weight classes are actually listed properly, because a lot of people are still kind of scratching their heads on the proper weight classes for bare knuckle fighting.
Yeah, 100%. And we, there's Sure Dog, and there's Tapology, and there's BoxRec, right? There are platforms for those, and I think BoxRec does. They do bare knuckle, but it's like it's not very thorough.
It's not it's not detailed. It's not detailed at all.
It's not detailed, and we knew when we revamped the site, we knew that we wanted to do something and have a just dedicated. Like we're not going to do an MMA statistics. We want a dedicated bare knuckle platform, and our team did a great job. The guy who helped us build the thing, and upkeeping it is sometimes a pain, but I tell you what, it's definitely a labor of love, and I it's one of our better things that we've come up with. I mean,
I'm proud of y'all, man. Y'all did a really good job. I mean, I'm giving you a lot of kudos right now, and I'm going to back off from that because, like I said, that your head will start growing throughout the screen, and I don't know who the fuck I'm going to be talking to in just a second. So, good job. Now let's get back on track, man. I'm going to tell you, and also what's exciting about this bare knuckle 10 is that it is the quarterfinal round of the super welterweight tournament, and we're going to have a debuter. We're actually going to have a bare knuckle debuter who's taking place in that tournament, and I'm talking about Luis Baboon Palomino. Yeah. And I'm excited about him in his bare knuckle debut because I have announced Luis many times on the MMA side over with Absolute Championship Ahmad. And he's a fantastic fighter, and I think he's another guy who may gravitate very well because he's known for his striking in MMA. So he may gravitate over to the bare knuckle side. And Elvin Brito, I mean, there's a guy who's, seasoned in bare knuckle as well. He's another one, who's, I believe, what is Elvin right now? Is he 1-1?
He's 1-1. He beat Harris Stevenson at BKFC 3.
That's right.
Lost to Jim Ellers.
Jim Ellers. Yeah, he lost to Jim Ellers on that one. Yep. Speaking of Jim Ellers and Caleb Harris, man. Oh, that is just that's going to be fireworks. That is going to be an awesome fight because on one side, you've got the 2019 Knockout of the Year winner in Caleb Harris, who is absolutely hungry. Absolutely hungry. Talk about somebody, he lost his first fight, and talk about learning from your mistakes and trying something new moving forward. He's 2-1 right now in BKFC. And then we've got the bare knuckle beast, Jim Ellers, who has probably been the most ferocious fighter in recent memory, in bare knuckle, who has just absolutely mowed down 3 people. And these 3 people have not been pushovers in any sense.
Well, Brito, Garcia, and Lane.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, seriously, man, the lawnmower man literally just ran right over them and mulched them up, man. So it's going to be interesting to see if Caleb can weather the storm. Can Caleb weather the storm? And, because if Caleb lands the shot that he did, which garnered him the Knockout of the Year winner, that could be trouble for Jim. That could be trouble for anybody because Caleb has proven that he has superior knockout power. But so is Jim. Is Jim.
I'll say this. I think it's interesting matchmaking. I'm just throwing this out there. Like Caleb Harris and Jim Ellers. The fact that it's not for the title and it's a semifinal to quarterfinal to the
quarterfinal to the tournament. Yep. So
I'm shocked because if it was me, I think I would actually have to put them on opposite sides of the bracket. Just my own personal. I would have put them on the opposite sides of the bracket
so that they could eventually meet. Probably. Well, you could say the same. You could say the same thing about. You could say the same thing about the first tournament that we had. You could say that about the lightweight tournament that we had, but it ended up actually having the one fight that I wanted to see in the finals.
Well, with
Reggie and Johnny Bedford.
That was I know,
and that was at the opposite end,
right? When we saw the bracket, when I saw everything kind of laid out, I thought what's funny was that was the fight I also wanted to see. I just knew it. As soon as the first time I saw Johnny and Bare Knuckle, first time I saw Reggie and Bare Knuckle, I was like, this is it. One of these guys is going to have the title.
What do you think? In this situation, that maybe it should have been Jim Ellers fighting Luis Palomino, and Caleb Harris should have fought Elvin Brito, because Jim's not going to fight. Jim's not going to fight Elvin again. So I mean, so if they had kind of crossed that and then ended up making this particular fight for the final for the title.
Correct. Because what if Elvin Brito wins and Jim Ellers wins? You're going to have that rematch. Not that I'm saying it's necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying
it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. I would love to see that, because I think that he would, be looking for that redemption.
Exactly. So, like, I'm not so much complaining. I guess I'm just offering kind of an alternative to it. I think that's the way I would.
You better hope that David Philman isn't listening to this. No, I'm just fucking.
He's all right. He's all right. He'll send me a message if he does.
I'm sure he will. But no, I see exactly where you're going with that. But like I said, this card, it just keeps getting better and better. Abdiel Velasquez versus Dat Win. That's going to be an awesome fight, because Dat had such a good debut against Travis Thompson, and Abby is just another one of those bare knuckle guys that, he started with us and he's going to finish with us. That is very well put together. You've got Lorenzo Hunt and Gustavo Trujillo. My God, both of these guys have got big hands with bad intentions. And then you got Reggie Barnett and Matt Murphy. We haven't seen Matt Murphy around for a while. He was actually supposed to fight before for us, but, unfortunately that that fell through. Of course, he was handed his first defeat against Johnny Bedford.
Right.
When he fought Johnny in the tournament. And then we've got Josh Bordeaux against Travis Thompson. And Travis, of course, the animal, basically the poster child of bare knuckle for right now. And we've got a one fight, which is going to be our opening fight, which is going to be just for the fans in attendance, and that's going to be the bare knuckle cowboy Fred Pierce taking on Francesco Ricci. And Francesco is brand new to the sport. He's from Miami, originally from Naples, Italy. So that's going to be interesting. But that card, it's fantastic. I think they're just going to you're going to see brutality at its finest on Saturday. This is one of the best matched up cards that we've had in some time, but they've all been good. I mean, there haven't been too many cards that we've had that I have been kind of scratching my head saying, I'm not really understanding the reasoning behind this matchmaking. We've got a wonderful matchmaker. We've got a wonderful crew with BKFC, and it's just going to, if we can continue to give this kind of talent card after card after card, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the sky is the limit for bare knuckle.
100%, man. There isn't a God. I just to touch on Abby and Dat, Reggie and Matt Murphy, Lorenzo and Gustavo, Francesco and Fred, Travis and Josh, Uli and Bob, Maxwell.
They're great.
Like the whole card top to bottom. And I hope, and again, I will preach this for as long as anybody will keep letting me preach it. For you MMA people who have issues with some of the MMA fights with delay and praise and all that, blah, 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 give this a shot. Give this a try. Watch this. I'm telling you, the pace, you're going to get hooked. You're going to get hooked.
And that's what you want. That's what you want. You get excited during an MMA fight when the pace is 100 miles an hour. You get excited when the striking is uninterrupted. You get excited when fighters, basically throw out the caution book.
Yeah.
They throw out the caution book and say, you know something? Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Well, that's what you're getting. That's what you're getting. We're giving it to you. We're giving you the opportunity to see fighting at its absolute purest form and fighting at its best. Fighting. And I'm telling you, these fighters that some of you are crying for, say, oh, it's so brutal. Oh, my God, I feel so bad. They have families. They have kids. Oh, the same people that are, Cry Me a River, Argentina, are watching, MMA and boxing and such. Any bare knuckle fighter will tell you that the day after a bare knuckle fight, that they feel so much better than they did fighting in MMA or boxing. I'm sure that you saw this on Facebook. You know our girl Sheena Puma Star.
Of course.
She posted a little while ago where she posted a post-fight picture of her legs after an MMA fight. And you saw how tore up her legs were. And she said that's why she said that's why I love bare knuckle, because I don't have to worry about my entire body being torn up after a fight. You know, I mean, I'm going to tell you, that's got to be a bitch walking around with legs that aren't capable of really holding you up after a fight. You don't have to worry.
Don't work anymore.
Legs that don't work, or even a possibility of permanent nerve damage or possible damage that, you know, it's going to be so much harder to bounce back from than a bare knuckle fight.
Yeah.
Than a bare knuckle fight. There are fighters that said that they have less headaches.
Yeah.
That you know, they have a less chance of concussions and rattling that brain basket. And that's really where, I mean, that's where the real damage comes. And the reason why is because they're being much more careful about the shots that they throw, because they have to be. They don't have a choice. There is no protection on those hands. And with no protection on those hands, a break could happen at any time. So you have to pick your shots and you have to be scientific about it. So you're going to have, so yes, it looks more brutal, but is it actually in reality more brutal than, you know, an all-out fucking war in MMA, where you may be sore afterwards, but in MMA, you know, you're sore everywhere. You're sore everywhere. You are literally a walking wound. At however tall you are, if you're 6 feet tall, you're a 6 feet tall walking wound, right? Is what you are after an MMA fight. You know, you're going to get over the cuts. I mean, how many times have we seen Jason Knight get cut up, and then less than 2 weeks later, it's like he wasn't in a fight to begin with?
Yeah, it's like nothing happened.
Yeah,
it's like nothing happened. Guys, check it out. I can't stress it enough. And BKFC 10, that's this weekend. The 15th, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's going to be on pay-per-view, Fight TV, all that.
Broward County Convention Center. Check it out on bareknuckle.tv.
Yep.
It's going to be on pay-per-view. Also, you can get it on Fight TV. We get started, I believe the first prelim fight goes down at 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. And then we are live worldwide on pay-per-view for BKFC 10. Like I said, we finally hit double digits in 2020. And we get started at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be, it's just going to be a blast. And
Facebook prelims, right? Is that
no, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be doing Facebook prelims. I think that the prelim fight, the one prelim fight that we have, is just for the audience in attendance.
So it'll be the one fight, and then it'll be pay-per-view.
And then it'll be pay-per-view. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's right. That's how we got it set up. And of course, we've got the weigh-ins on Friday. That's going to be we're doing something a little bit different this time around. My boy Ron Kruk is going to be opening up the weigh-ins, and I'm very happy about that, because a lot of people know Ron Kruk as the host of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, and also the backstage correspondent. You always see him having fantastic interviews with the fighters. He brings out the best in our boss David Feldman, asking the right questions. And he just wanted to open up the weigh-ins this time around, and I said, of course, man. I mean, you're the host. I mean, we need to have you up there with me, man. So I'm very proud to have Ron Kruk.
I like Ron. I like Ron a lot. He's cool. He's a good dude.
He absolutely is. And he has a plethora of information, and he's so good at leading fighters into answering the right questions. Real
quick, Jeff, because we're going to get ready to wrap this up in a couple minutes. Yep. Talk about, so you were just at the Who's Number One. You were talking about that early in the show. I mean, how did it go? Obviously, I heard it was a big hit. Tell us, what did you see, man? How was it?
I'm going to tell you, man. It was fantastic, man. We were up there at the hangar at the Orange County Fairgrounds, and you just really. It was one of those situations to where you have the proper rankings within Flow Grappling, and you've really got the number one. You've really got a lot of the number one spots in there. You really do, and it was just it really was something special, man, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this happen more and more And I think we're going to see that because, I really think that they did a fantastic job. But as far as the co-main and the main event, oh my God, man, I'm calling it the night of the upsets. I still can't believe Roberto Jimenez got the win over probably one of the most accomplished grapplers of our time, Keenan Cornelius. And not only that, what was more impressive, this was Roberto Jimenez's first fight at black belt. And he went up against a seasoned black belt who's pretty much done almost everything that you can do as far as professional grappling. And Roberto, I mean, I saw the videos. I saw his demeanor coming into this co-main event. And if there was ever a grappler that I saw that wanted it, that was hungry, that absolutely believes that he's only 23, 24 years old. He hasn't even hit his prime yet. And he took out somebody of that caliber. I mean, it's the biggest win by far of his career. And not only that, he was so well spoken after the fight. And he was really talking about a lot of the grapplers pushing steroids on kids, because he's seen some of the grapplers, kind of push them in that direction because, as you know, there's a lot of grappling tournaments that don't have drug testing.
Right.
So they don't want, he's the kind of guy that says, don't push that on the younger generation. He said, let them make that decision when they become an adult. He said, when you're an adult, you make those right decisions for yourself. And I had a lot of respect for that. And so did everybody in attendance. So that was a really great one. And then, of course, the main event was Victor Hugo against Nicholas Marigali. And Nicholas is another guy who believes that he is just the #1 grappler in the world. Well, guess what happened? He got beat too. He got beat by Victor Hugo, but Victor's been around a long time as well. Victor, did fantastic this year in the ADCC World Championships. And, he's another guy who's a contender, multiple-time world champion, but by far the biggest win of his career as well, because the hype train that was behind Nicholas was just, it had so many cars attached to it. It was just insane. But that was great. And then, of course, we saw, a lot of the younger ones that are really going to be on the lookout. Ty Rotolo, remember we were talking about the Rotolo brothers?
Yeah.
He got a big win over Jonathan Marquez, who was the #1 purple belt in that #1 ranked purple belt in that weight class, and did a fantastic job. And then there's a couple of others that looked out. Jessica Khan, who's actually from that area. She had a brown belt roosterweight match, and she just absolutely destroyed Vicky Huang. Absolutely destroyed her. And Vicky unfortunately had a little bit of a limp on the way out, so she definitely took it to her. But there's all kinds of stuff that's coming up in the grappling world, especially via Flow Grappling, and that's what's going to be really exciting, is seeing these guys not only bring it to you from a production sense, but now they're starting to promote their own events, similar like what they do in Flow Wrestling. They've been doing that a long time, where they not only promote their own events, but they produce them as well. Now we're going to start to see that in Flow Grappling, and I'm a part of that, and I can't wait to see what they've got next up.
100%, Jeff. And I assume people can watch the replay on Flow Grappling.
You can watch anything on flowgrappling.com. Let me tell you something. If you subscribe to flowgrappling.com on the pay sense, it's amazing the content that you get. It is amazing. Their content, their library is just so incredibly massive, and you can really start to get a feeling on the best grapplers in the world. You'll really get to know these guys and girls, and there's just so many of them that are, they're transcending the sport itself. And you got to check it out, man. Flowgrappling.com, man. And who's #1? It was a lot of fun. I also want to give a shout out to my boy Seth Daniels for the hookup. Seth Daniels, as you know, is the promoter for Fight to Win, which in my opinion is probably the busiest grappling competition on the planet, possibly one of the busiest combat sports promotions on the planet. But he got the hookup for this, and I definitely want to say a shout out and thank you to him. He'd probably say I'm talking too much. He's like, Jeff, you don't need to thank me. I'm like, whatever.
Speaking of talking too much, I'm just kidding.
Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm a ring announcer. What the hell do you think I should be doing?
That's right. That's right.
I'm not gonna mime it. I'm on a friggin' microphone. You don't mime on a microphone.
That's correct, guys. But that's going to wrap up this show. We hope you enjoyed it. We will be back again, so just keep it tuned to that dial. Again, the easiest way to not miss a show is to subscribe to the notification bell, and you won't miss a show. So, Loudmouth Fisticuffs, we're here to stay. We love it. We hope you love it. We saw some of your feedback, and hopefully we're
We're having fun, aren't we, Josh? We're having fun, aren't we, Josh?
I'm having a blast, man. I'm having a blast. But, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this episode Trace. That was your Spanish word of the day. That means 3, okay? And that's all we got. That's Mr. Live Worldwide, and I'm Joshua Furs. You just listen to Loudmouth Fisticuffs, and we're out.
Fuck yeah. We'll see you in episode 4.